Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the stream. As always, I'm Xevi, and today we are continuing to learn how to code with freecodecamp.org, which you can see on the screen in front of you. Last time we covered basic HTML and HTML5. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, in case you didn't know that. And then we also learned basic CSS, or cascading style sheets. And so today we're going to try applied visual design. I know a little bit about some of this stuff because I did study graphic design for a while. So a lot of, that covered a lot of sorry, excuse me. Get a little tongue-tied. But anyway, we covered stuff like typography, color theory, graphics, animation, all this sort of stuff. So that's what we'll be doing today. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and switch to full screen and get started. So I guess we start with create visual balance using the text align property. Alright, this looks right. Create visual balance using the text align property. This section of the curriculum focuses on applied visual design. The first group of challenges build on the given card layout to show a number of core principles. Text is often a large part of web content. Cascading Style Sheets has several options for how to align it with the text align property. Text align justify causes all lines of the text except the last line to meet the left and right edges of the line box. Text line center centers the text, text line right aligns the text, and text line left, the default left aligns the text. Okay, so this is pretty similar to something like, you know how if you use something like Word and you want, the text to be like in the center or to the right, to the left, this is basically that. So, okay, align the H4's header 4 tags text, which says Google, to the center. Then justify the paragraph tag, which contains information about how Google was founded. Okay. So let's see here. Align the H4 tags text, which says Google, to the center. Okay, so we'll go here. That. I'm guessing it's text align colon. It said to center it, right? Center. Semicolon. Alright, that's centered. Paragraph tag. Oh, right here. Durr. And then we do text align justify. And that ought to do it. Yep. This feels like it's going to be a bit of a long lesson, seeing as that was only 2% of the whole thing. But we're in it for the long haul. Next challenge. Adjust the width of an element using the width property. You can specify the width of an element using the width property in CSS. Values can be given in relative length units, such as m, absolute length units, such as pixel, or as a percentage of its containing parent element. Here's an example that changes the width of an image to 220 pixels. IMG width 220 pixels. Add a width property to entire card and set it to an absolute value of 245 pixels. Use the full card class to select the element. Okay. So, as I said before, cascading style sheets is this up here, which is cordoned off with the tag style. And you can put stuff in here by assigning it classes, such as like header 4, you can see here. That'd be a class. P here, which would be the text. P stands for paragraph. That sort of thing. And so full card would be this right here. Use the full card class to select the element. So we pretty much go here, tab. Oh, I guess we should go over what relative and absolute is. So relative links are links units that correspond to like predetermined. No, is that absolute? I don't know, I might be explaining this wrong. I should say already that I'm not an expert, clearly. I'm just learning. So I think what it was that okay, relative I think has to do with like its length within the text. And an absolute length is like it's that length in reality as well as I think that's how it is. Yeah. So if we set something with an absolute length like a pixel as it wants us to do, it's going to be 200 pixels both by reality in terms of reality and in terms of our code. Whereas if we set it with relative length, with m, it would be not that precise, is what I think is what it's going for. Okay, so this would be pretty easy. Width 245 pixels, colon. Yep. Okay, so next challenge. Adjust the height of an element using the height property. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's height. Specify the height of an element using the height property in CSS, similar to the width property. Here's an example that changes the height of an image to 20 pixels. Add a height property to the h4 tag and set it to 25 pixels. And they've been kind enough to just give us the space to do it. Height, h4 tag, 25 pixels, semicolon. This is a Star Trek reference. Clearly. Okay, submit next challenge. Yes, ask me later, please. Thank you. you know, you can't be too upset with them for doing that. They are a nonprofit. And all of this is completely free, no charge. You don't have to download anything. It's all done within the browser. And that's pretty neat. Oh, I guess I should explain. I found this website through a video on YouTube that was posted by a YouTuber who goes by the name of Dorian Develops. And he is a self-taught programmer. And he highlighted one of these as one of his favorite resources in one of his videos. So that is what has led me to use it here. Trying to teach myself how to program. Because I did a little bit of this when I was getting my degree. But I'm kind of wanting to go beyond what I was taught. And also because I want to learn more so how to like program. Eventually, my end goal is to learn how to be able to how to program my own video game. But career-wise, I think that programming could be, you know, something I could get into because I already work in IT. I'm a freelance computer user support specialist. And I have the CompTIA A+ and Security Plus certifications. And I'm just pursuing this as I also do freelance work and try to look for a full-time job. As well as doing what I'm doing here with the VTubing and all that. So, okay. Use the strong tag to make text bold. To make text bold, you can use the strong tag. This is often used to draw attention to text and symbolize that it is important. With the strong tag, the browser applies the cascading style sheet of font weight bold to the element. Wrap a strong tag around Stanford University text inside the P tag. Do not include the period. I see. Okay. Your code should add one strong tag to the markup. The strong tag should be inside of the P tag, so over down here instead of up here in the cascading style sheet. The strong tag should wrap around the words Stanford University and not the period. So I'm guessing I just come in here and I do caret strong and then close it here with slash strong caret. I'm guessing that's it. Yep. Called it. Next challenge. Use the U tag to underline text. To underline text, you can use the U tag. This is often used to signify that a section of text is important or something to remember. With the U tag, the browser applies the CSS of text decoration underlined to the element. Wrap the U tag only around the text PhD students. Note, try to avoid using the U tag when it could be confused for a link. Anchor tags also have a default underlined formatting. Okay. So if you set something as an anchor, you don't need to underline it, I think is what it's saying. Okay, well they were PhD students. U. And see, until we close it, it has everything till the end of the P tag underlined. So we cut it short at the PhD students by coming here and closing the tag. Yep. 10% complete. Next challenge. Use the M tag to italicize text. To emphasize text, you can use the M tag. This is not the same M as before. This displays text as italicized as the browser applies the CSS font of font style italic to the element. Wrap an M tag around the contents of the paragraph tag to give it emphasis. Your code should add an M tag to the markup. The M tag should wrap around the contents of the P tag, but not the P tag itself. Okay, so it's saying that it should be... Basically, this is saying that the M tag should be inside of the P tag. It's probably like this. And we come here. Caret close M tag. And see, this is neat because you can see instantly like what your code did to the text over here in this window. Alright, run test. All good. Next challenge. Use the S tag to strike through text. To strike through text, which is when a horizontal line cuts across the characters, you can use the S tag. It shows that a section of text is no longer valid. With the S tag, the browser applies the CSS of text decoration line through to the element. Wrap the S tag around Google inside the H4 tag, and then add the word alphabet beside it, which should not have the strike through formatting. So H4 content. Okay, so we initialize the S tag here. We close it here. And then we add alphabet as normal text. Yep. Next challenge. Create a horizontal line using the HR element. You can use the HR tag to add a horizontal line across the width of its containing element. This can be used to define a change in topic or to visually separate groups of content. Add an HR tag underneath the H4, which contains the card title. Note, in HTML, HR is a self-closing tag, and therefore doesn't need a separate closing tag. And that's something they covered earlier, is that some tags are self-closing, which means you don't need to do the secondary /tag tag, if that makes sense. Okay, so add an HR tag underneath the H4, which contains the card title. Oh, apparently GeForce Game Ready driver is available. I'll take care of that later. Okay. Lulu, what are you doing? Stop licking my drink, please. My parent... yep. The cat I'm currently watching for my parents, his name is Lucy, and she likes to play on my table, which I would rather she not do, but that is an ongoing argument. Okay, so underneath H4, HR. And that should be it, huh? Yep. Adjust the background color property of text. Instead of adjusting your overall background or the color of the text to make the foreground easily readable, you can add a background color to the element holding the text you want to emphasize. This challenge uses RGBA instead of hex codes or normal RGB. RGBA stands for red, green, blue, alpha, level of opacity. Okay. The opacity is like how opaque an object is. So 100% opacity is fully visible, 0 is invisible, basically. The RGB values can range from 0 to 255. The alpha value can range from 1, which is fully opaque or a solid color, to 0, which is fully transparent or clear. RGBA is great to use in this case, as it allows you to adjust the opacity. This means you don't have to completely block out the background. You'll use background color RGBA 45, 45, 45, 01 for this challenge. It produces a dark gray color that is nearly transparent given the low opacity value of 0.1. To make the text stand out more, adjust the background color of the H4 element to the given RGBA value. Also for the H4, remove the height property and add padding of 10 pixels. Okay, so get rid of height, padding 10px semicolon. Okay. Background color RGBA open parentheses 45 45 45 0.1. Do I need to do a semicolon after that? I will, just in case. Run the tests. We're on fire, apparently. Next challenge. Adjust the size of a header versus a paragraph tag. The font size of the header tags, H1 through H6, should generally be larger than the font size of paragraph tags. This makes it easier for the user to visually understand the layout and level of importance of everything on the page. You use the font size property to adjust the size of the text and element. Excuse me. To make the heading significantly larger than the paragraph, change the font size of the H4 tag to 27 pixels. So come here to the empty text within the H4 class. Font size 27 pixels. Run the tests. Alrighty, next challenge. Add a box shadow to a card-like element. Oh, I should probably ask, is the volume levels okay? Can you hear my voice over the background music? I don't want to hamper anyone's hearing. Okay, add a box shadow to a card-like element. The box shadow property applies one or more shadows to an element. The box shadow property takes values for offset X, how far to push the shadow horizontally from the element, offset Y, how far to push the shadow vertically from the element, blur radius, spread radius, and color in that order. The blur radius and spread radius values are optional. Multiple box shadows can be created by using commas to separate properties of each box shadow element. Here's an example of the CSS to create multiple shadows with some blur at mostly transparent. Oh, I just realized that I'm kind of like sitting in front of the text. But it's okay, I'm reading everything out loud. Multiple box shadows can be created by using commas to separate properties of each box shadow element. Actually, you know what? I think it would be better for y'all visually if I was on the other side of the screen. So give me just a second. Because there's not as much going on over here. Yeah, that looks better. And I can still look over at the text, at the chat, like this. Okay, that ought to be better. Let's get back to what we were doing. Multiple box shadows can be created using commas to separate properties of each box shadow element. Here's an example of the CSS to create multiple shadows with some blur at mostly transparent colors. Okay. 0.19, 0.23. The element now has an ID identifier of thumbnail. Yes, Lulu, I see you. Yep. With the selector, use the example CSS values above to place a box shadow on the card. Do we do it just like it is in this example? Hey, what are you doing, cat? You are on the wrong side of the computer. What are you doing, Lulu? What do you think you're doing? Come on, Lulu. You gotta get out of my way. I know. I'll pet you later to make up for it, I swear. Okay, so where are we? Oh, there it is. There's a thumbnail ID. Hey. Oh, I see. We gotta add it here as a class. Lulu, you've got to go, kitty. I'm sorry. You've got to go. Okay. Thumbnail. No. Get my letters backwards. Thumbnail. Okay. Now, I think we can just copy paste, right? Copy. Paste. And let's test it. Huh. Your code should add a box shadow property for the thumbnail ID. Is that not what has been happened? Did I spell it wrong? Oh, it's right there. Thumbnail. Nope, that ain't it. Apparently we have the given CSS for the box shadow value, but we haven't assigned it to the ID. Am I not remembering how to do IDs? Yeah, because this is a class. So IDs are done. Oh geez, how do you do IDs? I don't remember. I think I'm going to reset the code. Reset this lesson, yeah. What am I not doing right? I think I need to get help. Box shadow property attaches one or more shadows to an element. That doesn't help me much. I thought I had it. Am I just not remembering it right? Because I'm pretty sure that all you would do is this, right? We have a box shadow now. No, we don't. Yeah, I'm not doing this right. I think I need to watch a video.
The box shadow property applies one or more shadows to an element. So this is the box shadow property, and it's kind of like a drop shadow. So each number represents something else. So the first number is the offset x, and that's how far to push the shadow horizontally from the element. And then this.
Sorry if that's a bit too loud for y'all. Is that too loud? I don't know. I'm going to keep watching. Just let me know if it's too loud.
Second number, offset y, how far to push the shadow vertically. And then we have the blur radius, the spread radius, and then the color. Now, most of these are optional if you just want to keep the default value. You can also do a comma separator. So if you had a comma here, you can add an entirely new box shadow. So for this challenge, I'm about to show you how to do this challenge here. And what we're going to do is style the element here. So you can see this ID has been added, ID of thumbnail. And instead of example here, I'm going to select the ID of thumbnail.
It was the hashtag. Okay. You do hashes for IDs. Okay, that's what I was missing. There we go. That's what we were missing. Yeah, it's been, like, I did this last week, so I guess I've forgotten some stuff already. Okay. Be nice if I had, like, I need, like, an HTML, like, cheat sheet or something to help me remember. Like, this is how you do an ID, this is how you do, you know, da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Alright, next challenge. Decrease the opacity of an element. The opacity property in CSS is used to adjust the opacity or conversely the transparency for an item. A volume of 1 is opaque, which isn't transparent at all. Oh, I was doing things on a scale of 0 to 100. Apparently it's done on a scale of 0 to 1 here. A value of 1 is opaque, which isn't transparent at all. A value of 0.5 is half see-through. A value of 1 is completely transparent. The value given will apply to the entire element, whether that's an image with some transparency, or the foreground and background colors for a block of text. Set the opacity of the anchor tags to 0.7 using links class to select them. So right here, opacity colon 0.7. Did that work? Oh, that worked. Awesome. Next challenge. Use the text transform property to make text uppercase. The text transform property in CSS is used to change the appearance of text. It's a convenient way to make sure text on a web page appears consistently without having to change the text content of the actual HTML elements. The following table shows how the different text transform values change the example text transform me. Lowercase, transform me. Uppercase, transform me. Capitalized, transform me. Initial, use the default value. Inherit, use the text transform value from the parent element. Or none, default, use the original text. Transform the text of the H4 to be uppercase using the text transform property. Okay, so we come here to the H4 class. Or, yeah, I guess it'd be a class. I don't know, I might be getting my terminology mixed up. Okay. Text transform uppercase. Alright, 25%. That's 1/4 of the way through. Let's go to the next challenge. The font size property is used to specify how large the text is in a given element. This rule can be used for multiple elements to create visual consistency of text on a page. In this challenge, you'll set the values for all H1 through H6 tags to balance the heading sizes. In the style tag, select the font size of the H1 tags to 68 pixels, H2 tags to 52 pixels, H3 tag to 40 pixels, H4 tags to 32 pixels, H5 tag to 21 pixels, H6 tag to 14 pixels. Okay, so H1 font size 68 pixels. Oh, did I not do it right again? Is it period? No. Is it hash? Yep. So it's the ID. Okay. Hash H2. Same thing. In fact, we can probably just copy paste font size so I'm not typing so much over and over again. And I'm going to turn the music down just a bit because it's a little loud for me. So let's slide you down to... That's good. If that's too quiet for y'all, let me know. But that was a bit too loud for me. Okay, font size. Let's just... Oh, no. Where? Did you click my thing? Don't click my thing. Copy. .52 pixels. H3 40 pixels. H4. Are we changing anything? It doesn't look like we're changing anything. I might be barking up the wrong tree here. If that's the case, then I'll just go back and... Well, you know what? We can get it typed out, and then once we have it typed out, we can figure out what we did wrong. For now, I'm continuing with this. 21. H6. 14 pixels. Run the tests. Nope. We did absolutely nothing. Oh, I had it right the first time. Why didn't it change? Okay. Alrighty. That ought to do it. Did we... Has it... Oh. There we go. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful, because even the littlest thing can make something incorrect. You gotta watch out for that, as you just saw. Run the tests. 27% complete. Next challenge. Set the font weight for multiple heading elements. You set the font size of each heading tag in the last challenge. Here you'll adjust the font weight. Font weight property sets how thick or thin characters are in this section of text. Set the font weight of the H1 tag to 800, H2 600, H3 500, H4 400, H5 300, H6 200. Okay, so now that we've done, this should be fairly simple. Font weight. We're going to copy that because we'll be pasting it quite a lot. At least 6 times. 800. 600. 500. 400. 300. 200. Voila, that should be it. Alrighty, 29% complete. Next challenge. Set the font size of paragraph text. The font size property in CSS is not limited to headings. It can be applied to any element containing text. Change the value of the font size property for the paragraph to 16 pixels to make it more visible. Shouldn't we just go up here and change 10 to 16? Yep, 31%. Next challenge. Set the line height of paragraphs. CSS offers the line height property to change the height of each line in a block of text. As the name suggests, it changes the amount of vertical space that each line of text gets. Add a line height property to the p tag and set it to 25 pixels. So we come here, line height, 25 pixels. Cool. As you can see here, it spread out the lines so that they weren't all squished together. 33%. This challenge will touch on the usage of pseudoclasses. A pseudoclass is a keyword that can be added to selectors in order to select a specific state of the element. For example, the styling of an anchor tag can be changed for its hover state using the hover pseudoclass selector. Here's the CSS to change the color of the anchor tag to red during its hover state. Okay, and that just means like when your mouse is hovering over it. A hover color red. The code editor has a CSS rule to style all A tags black. Add a rule so that when the user hovers over the A tag, the color is blue. So right here, I'm guessing we go A, hover, color, blue. Okay, so as you can see here, it is black, and when we hover over it, blue. %35 complete. Next challenge. Change an element's relative position. CSS treats each HTML element as its own box, which is usually referred to as the CSS box model. Block level items automatically start on a new line. Think headings, paragraph, and divs, while inline items sit within surrounding content like images or spans. The default layout of elements in this way is called the normal flow of a document, but CSS offers the position property to override it. When the position of an element is set to relative, it allows you to specify how CSS should move it relative to its current position in the normal flow of the page. It pairs with the CSS offset properties of left or right and top or bottom. These say how many pixels, percentages, or ems to move the item away from where it is normally positioned. The following examples move the paragraph 10 pixels away from the bottom. P, position relative, bottom 10 pixels. Changing an element's position to relative does not remove it from the normal flow. Other elements around it still behave as if that item were in its default position. Note: positioning gives you a lot of flexibility and power over the visual layout of a page. It's good to remember that no matter the position of elements, the underlying HTML markup should be organized and make sense when read from top to bottom. This is how users with visual impairments who rely on assistive devices like screen readers access your content. Change the position of the H2 to relative and use a CSS offset to move it 15 pixels away from the top of where it sits in the normal flow. Notice there is no impact on the positions of the surrounding H1 and P elements. Okay, so we go here to at CSS, we turn its position to relative. And since we want it to be 15 pixels away from the top, we go top 15 pixels. Did it work? Oh, see, a typo. I totally screwed that up. Relative. I thought something was wrong. Yep, there we go. It moved. Alright. Yeah, that was what was the problem. Just a simple typo. Submit and go to the next challenge. Move a relatively positioned element with CSS offsets. The CSS offsets of top or bottom and left or right tell the browser how far to offset an item relative to where it would sit in the normal flow of the document. You're offsetting an element. Oh, geez, excuse me. I'm going to take a quick sip of soda. That's better. Okay. How far to offset an item relative to where it would sit in the normal flow of the document. You're offsetting an element away from a given spot, which moves the element away from the reference side, effectively the opposite direction. As you saw in the last challenge, using the top offset moved the H2 downwards. Likewise, using a left offset, he moves the item to the right. Use CSS offsets to move the H2 15 pixels to the right and 10 pixels up. Alright, so its position is already set to relative. So we'll go here, and we go left 15 pixels, and we do bottom 10 pixels. Yep. %38 complete. Next challenge. Lock an element to its parent with absolute positioning. The next option for the CSS position property is absolute, which locks the element in place relative to its parent container. Unlike the relative position, this removes the element from the normal flow of the document, so surrounding items ignore it. The CSS offset properties from top or bottom and left or right are used to adjust the position. One nuance with absolute positioning is that it will be locked relative to its closest position ancestor. If you forget to add a position rule to the parent item, this is typically done using position relative, the browser will keep looking up the chain and ultimate default to the body tag. Lock the search bar element to the top right of its section parent by declaring its position as absolute. Give it top and right offsets of 50 pixels each. Okay. So position absolute. Give it top and right offsets of 50 pixels each. So bottom. No, wait. Okay. I'm guessing when it says it like that, we should just do what it says. Top 50 pixels. Right 50 pixels. I think that's right. It is not right. Your code should use the top CSS offset of 50 pixels on the search bar element. Oh, top's not the right one. What was it? Shoot. Wait, isn't it top? Oh, there shouldn't be a space between. Yep, that's what I did. That's all it was. No space between the number and pixels. Okay, that's what I was doing wrong. Submit and go to the next challenge. Lock an element to the browser window with fixed positioning. The next layout scheme that CSS offers is the fixed position, which is a type of absolute positioning that locks an element relative to the browser window. Similar to absolute positioning, it's used with the CSS offset properties and also removes the element from the normal flow of the document. Other items no longer realize where it is positioned, which may require some layout adjustments elsewhere. One key difference between the fixed and absolute positions is that an element with a fixed position won't move when the user scrolls. Okay. So see how it all moves when I scroll? Okay, we're about to fix that, I'm guessing. Navigation bar in the code is labeled with an ID of navbar. Change its position to fixed and offset it 0 pixels from the top and 0 pixels from the left. After you have added the code, scroll the preview window to see how the navigation stays in place. Okay. Position fixed. Okay. We want it 0 pixels from the top, so we use bottom. Oh no. We should do the thing again. Okay, top. 0 pixels. Left. 0 pixels. Okay, and now when we scroll, it stays where it is. Cool. Run the tests. Next challenge. Push elements left or right with the float property. The next positioning tool does not actually use position, but sets the float property of an element. Floating elements are removed from the normal flow of a document and pushed to either the left or right of their containing parent element. It's commonly used with the width property to specify how much horizontal space the floated element requires. The given markup would work well as a 2-column layout, with the section and aside elements next to each other. Give the left item a float of left and the right item a float of right. Okay. The element with the ID left should have a float value of left. Float left. Come down here. Float right. Nope. All right, run the tests. Alrighty. Nearly halfway done. Next challenge. Change the position of overlapping elements with the z-index property. When elements are positioned to overlap, i.e. using position, absolute, relative, fixed, sticky, the element coming later in the HTML markup will by default appear on top of the other elements. However, the z-index property can specify the order of how elements are stacked on top of one another. It must be an integer, i.e. a whole number and not a decimal. And higher values for the z-index property of an element move it higher in the stack than those with lower values. Add a z-index property to the element with the class name of first, the red rectangle, and set it to a value of 2 so it covers the other element, the blue rectangle. Alright. Z-index 2. Yep, there we go. 46%. Next challenge. Center an element horizontally using the margin property. Another positioning technique is to center a block element horizontally. One way to do this is to set its margin to a value of auto. This method works for images too. Images are inline elements by default, but can be changed to block elements when you set the display property to block. Center the div on the page by adding a margin property with a value of auto. Alright, so margin auto. Cool. Run the tests. 48%. Next test. Learn about complementary colors. Okay, now here's where stuff's gonna get detailed, because color theory is no joke. Color theory and its impact on design is a deep topic, and only the basics are covered in the following challenge. On a website, color can draw attention to content, evoke emotions, or create visual harmony. Using different combinations of colors can really change the look of a website, and a lot of thought can go into picking a color palette that works with your content. The color wheel is a useful tool to visualize how colors relate to each other. It's a circle where similar hues are neighbors and different hues are farther apart. When two colors are opposite each other on a wheel, they are called complementary colors. They have the characteristic that if they are combined, they cancel each other out and create a gray color. However, when placed side by side, these colors appear more vibrant and produce a strong visual contrast. Some examples of complementary colors with their hex codes are red, and I'm not going to read all that, and cyan, green and magenta, blue and yellow. This is different than the outdated RYB color model that many of us were taught in school, which has different primary and complementary colors. Modern color theory used the additive RGB model, like on a computer screen, and a subtractive CYMK model, like in printing. Yeah, I had to learn about all this stuff when I was learning graphic arts. Read here for more information on this complex subject, and it is complex. There are many color picking tools available online that have an option to find the complement of a color. That's true. That's very true. I've forgotten most of them. Note, using color can be a powerful way to add visual interest to a page. However, color alone should not be used as the only way to convey important information, because users with visual impairments, and like colorblind people, users with visual impairments may not understand that content. This issue will be covered in more detail in the applied accessibility challenges. So, change the background color property of the blue and yellow classes to their respective colors. Notice how the colors look different next to each other than they do compared against the white background. Okay, change blue and yellow to blue and yellow. So we'll take this here, copy, switch it to blue. We'll take this over here, copy, switch it to yellow. Alright, halfway through. We're at 50%. Next challenge. Learn about tertiary colors. That's how you pronounce that. Computer monitors and device screens create different colors by combining amounts of red, green, and blue light. This is known as the RGB additive color model in modern color theory. Red, green, and blue are called primary colors. Mixing two primary colors creates the secondary colors cyan, green and blue, magenta, red and blue, and yellow, red and green. You saw these colors in the complementary colors challenge. These secondary colors happen to be the complement to the primary color not used in their creation, and are opposite to that primary color on the color wheel. For example, magenta is made with red and blue and is complement to green. Tertiary colors are the result of combining a primary color with one of its secondary color neighbors. For example, within the RGB color model, red primary and yellow secondary make orange tertiary. This adds 6 more colors to a simple color wheel for a total of 12. There are various methods of selecting different colors that result in a harmonious combination in design. One example that can use tertiary colors is called the split complementary color scheme. This scheme starts with a blue color, then pairs it with the 2 colors that are adjacent to its complement. The 3 colors provide strong visual contrast in the design, but are more subtle than using 2 complementary colors. Here are 3 colors created using the split complement scheme: orange, cyan, and raspberry. Change the background color of the orange, cyan, and raspberry classes to their respective colors. Make sure to use the hex codes and not the color names. Alright, so some simple copy and pasting again. Orange. Cyan. And raspberry. Yep, okay. On the tests. Submit and go to the next challenge. Adjust the color of various elements to complementary colors. The complementary colors challenge showed that opposite colors on the color wheel can make each other appear more vibrant when placed side by side. However, the strong visual contrast can be jarring if it's overused on a website, and can sometimes make text harder to read if it's placed on a complementary color background. In practice, one of the colors is usually dominant, and the complement is used to bring the visual attention to a certain content on the page. Excuse me. This page will use a shade of teal as the dominant color, and its orange complement to visually highlight the sign-up buttons. Change the background color of both the header and footer from black to the teal color. Then change the H2 text color to teal as well. Finally, change the background color of the button to the orange color. So the header element should have a background color of blah blah blah. So we'll take this here, move up to header, and paste. Now it is teal. I'm pretty sure it's teal. Then we'll take this hex code here and change the footer element to have a background of also teal. Oh yeah, they're the same. The H2 element should have a color of, I think that's the same. Yeah, that's teal as well. Yeah. H2 is now teal. Now the button element will have orange. Oh, nope. There we go. Button. You are now orange. Alright, that looks much better than just a straight up black and white, doesn't it? Run the tests. Next challenge. Adjust the hue of a color. Colors have several characteristics including hue, saturation, and lightness. CSS3 introduced the HSL property as an alternative way to pick a color by directly stating these characteristics. Hue is what people generally think of as color. If you picture a spectrum of colors starting with red on the left, moving through green in the middle, and blue on right, the hue is where a color fits along this line. In HSL, hue uses a color wheel concept instead of the spectrum, where the angle of the color is on the circle is given as a value between 1 and 360, because it's a circle. Circles are 360 degrees around. Saturation is the amount of gray in a color. A fully saturated color has no gray in it, and a minimally saturated color is almost completely gray. This is given as a percentage, with 100% being fully saturated. Lightness is the amount of white or black in a color. A percentage is given ranging from 0% black to 100% white, where 50% is the normal color. Here are a few examples of using HSL with fully saturated normal lightness colors. And you can see here red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta. Change the background color of each div element based on the class names, green, cyan, or blue, using HSL. All three should have full saturation and normal lightness. Fully saturated, meaning no gray. Normal, 50% lightness is normal. Okay. Change the background color of each div element based on the class names green, cyan, red, and blue, using HSL. Okay, so here, well, actually, green. Okay, we'll take this, copy that, go back up here, paste. It is now green. Cyan, here, copy, paste. Cyan. And finally blue. Copy and paste. Yep. Now all looks good. Run the tests. Alrighty, next challenge. Adjust the tone of a color. The HSL option in CSS also makes it easy to adjust the tone of a color. Mixing white with a pure hue creates a tint of that color, and adding black will make a shade. Alternatively, a tone is produced by adding gray or by both tinting and shading. Recall that the S and L of HSL stand for saturation and lightness, respectively. The saturation percent changes the amount of gray and the lightness percent determines how much white or black is in the color. This is useful when you have a base hue you like but need different variations of it. All elements have a default background color of transparent. Our nav element currently appears to have a cyan background because the element behind it has a background color set to cyan. Add a background color to the nav element so it uses the same cyan hue but has 80% saturation and 25% lightness values to change its tone and shade. Okay, so we come here to the nav element. And we add a background color with the HSL values of 180 for the color, but 80%. Where are you, percent? There you are. Saturation and 25% lightness. See? Same color, different saturation and hue. No, different saturation and lightness. The hue is the same. The color is the same. Run the tests. Next challenge. Create a gradual CSS linear gradient. Applying a color on HTML elements is not limited to one flat hue. CSS provides the ability to use color transitions, otherwise known as gradients, on elements. This is accessed through the background property's linear gradient function. Here's the general syntax. Background, linear gradient, gradient direction, color 1, color 2, color 3, so on and so forth. The first argument specifies the direction from which color transition starts. It can be stated as a degree, where 90 degrees makes a horizontal gradient from left to right, and 45 degrees makes a diagonal gradient from bottom left to top right. The following arguments specify the order of colors used in the gradients. Example, background, linear gradient, 90 degree, which is a horizontal gradient, red, yellow, RGB 204, 204, 255. Use a linear gradient for the div element's background. And set it from a direction of 35 degrees to change the color from CCFFF to FFCCCC. Alright, so div element, background, ground, linear gradient. Is there a space? I can't tell if there's a space or not. Nope, that is the wrong parentheses. There we go. So 35 DEG hash CCFFFF comma FFCCCC. Oh, that's nice. Semicolon. You see that? Run the tests. 60% complete. Next challenge. Use a CSS linear gradient to create a striped element. The repeating linear gradient function is very similar to linear gradient, with the major difference that it repeats the specified gradient pattern. Repeating linear gradient accepts a variety of values, but for simplicity, you'll work with an angle value and color stop values in this challenge. Excuse me. The angle value is the direction of the gradient. Color stops are like width values that mark where a transition takes place. and are given with a percentage or a number of pixels. In the example demonstrated in the color editor, the gradient starts with the color yellow at 0 pixels, which blends into the second color blue at 40 pixels away from the start. Since the next color stop is also at 40 pixels, the gradient immediately changes to the third color green, which itself blends into the fourth color value red, as that is 80 pixels away from the beginning of the gradient. For this example, it helps to think about the color stops as pairs where every two colors blend together. 0 pixels yellow, blend blue, 40 pixels green, blend red, 80 pixels. If every two color stop values are the same color, the blending isn't noticeable because it's between the same color followed by a hard transition to the next color, so you end up with stripes. Make stripes by changing the repeating linear gradient to use a gradient angle of 45 degrees. Then set the first two color stops to yellow, and finally the second two color stops to black. Okay, I think I understand. So go here. 45 degrees. First two color stops to yellow. So yellow. Then these two will become black. Black. And see, you can see on the side how it's changing already. Black. Alrighty. Run the tests. Alright, next challenge. Create texture by adding a subtle pattern as a background image. One way to add texture and interest to a background and have it stand out more is to add a subtle pattern. The key is balance, as you don't want the background to stand out too much and take away from the foreground. The background property supports the URL function in order to link to an image of the chosen texture or pattern. The link address is wrapped in quotes inside the parentheses. Using the URL of https://cdnmedia1 freecodecamp.org imgur blah 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 blah, set the background of the whole page with the body selector. Okay, excuse me. I'm getting yawny already. Well, we've been going over an hour now. Let's see if we can't keep going. Background. URL. And I'm just going to copy and paste this because I'm not typing all that out. I think that's it. Yeah, it's all dotted now. Run the tests. Alrighty, next challenge. Use the CSS transform scale property to change the size of an element. To change the scale of an element, CSS has the transform property along with its scale function. The following code example doubles the size of all the paragraph elements on the page. Okay, paragraph transform scale 2. Increase the size of the element with the ID of ball2 to 1.5 times its original size. Alright, so here's the ball2 element. Transform and roll out. scale 1.5. Okay. Yeah, see, I think that worked. Alrighty. 65%. Next. Use the CSS transform scale property to scale an element on hover. The transform property has a variety of functions that let you scale, move, rotate, skew, etc. your elements. When used with pseudoclasses such as hover that specify a certain state of an element, the transform property can easily add interactivity to your elements. Here's an example to scale the paragraph elements to 2.1 times their original size when a user hovers over them. P hover transform scale 2.1. Note, applying a transformation to a div element will also affect any child elements contained in the div. Add a CSS rule for the hover state of the div and use the transform property to scale the div element to 1.1 times its original size when a user hovers over it. So I'm guessing here in the empty space, div pseudo class hover. Transform scale 1.1 semicolon. Okay, so yep, that works. Cool. Run the tests. 67, next challenge. Use the CSS transform property skew x to skew an element along the x-axis. The next function of the transform property is skew x, which skews the selected element along its x horizontal axis by a given degree. The following code skews the paragraph element by -32 degrees along the x-axis. P transform skew x 32 degrees. Skew the element with the ID of bottom by 24 degrees along the x-axis by using the transform property. Alright, so here's bottom. Transform skew x 24 degree semicolon. Okay, and see it transform this rectangle into is it a trapezoid? God. Basic geometric shapes seems like I learned forever ago. I remember when we were learning shapes in school, we used to call trapezoids jumpazoids because when our teacher was trying to teach us, she had like a little trapezoid block and it kept like jumping out of her hand. She had like butterfingers and she couldn't grab it. So that's been like an in joke with my family for a long time ever since that happened. Although that's basically just with me and my mom because you know, my other two siblings weren't around at the time when it happened. Okay, so I think that's all we needed to do. Run the tests. 69%. Nice. Next challenge. Use the CSS transform property to skew y to skew an element along the y-axis. Given that the skew x function skews the selected element along the y-axis by a given degree, it's no surprise that the skew y property skews an element along the y vertical axis. Skew the element with the ID of top 10 degrees along the y-axis by using the transform property. Alright, so here's our top element. Transform. I just did this. Skew y, parenthesis, negative 10 degrees, semicolon. Yep, and we did it just like that. Run the tests. 71. Submit and go to the next challenge. Create a graphic using CSS. By manipulating different selectors and properties, you can make interesting shapes. One of the easier ones to try is a crescent moon shape. Excuse me, I'm going to take a quick sip. Okay. For this challenge, you need to work with the box shadow property that sets the shadow of an element along with the border radius property that controls the roundness of the element's corners. You will create a round, transparent object with a crisp shadow that is slightly offset to the side. The shadow is actually going to be the moon shape you see. In order to create a round object, the border radius property should be set to a value of 50%. You may recall from an earlier challenge that the box shadow property takes values for offset X, offset Y, blur radius, spread radius, and a color value in that order. The blur radius and spread radius values are optional. Manipulate the square element in the editor to create the moon shape. First, change the background color to transparent. Then set the border radius property to 50%. To make the circular shape. Finally, change the box shadow property to set the offset X to 25 pixels, offset Y to 10 pixels, blur radius to 0, spread radius to 0, and color to blue. Okay, so right here, is our center, which is what this element is. So transparent. Yep. Border radius 50%. Oh, very nice. Okay. Offset X to 25 pixels. Offset Y to 10 pixels. Blur radius to 0. Spread radius to 0. And the color doop 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 to blue. And that was fairly simple. Run the tests. 73%. Next challenge. Create a more complex shape using CSS and HTML. One of the most popular shapes in the world is the heart shape. And in this challenge, you'll create one using pure CSS. But first, you need to understand the before and after pseudo elements. These pseudo elements are used to add something before or after a selected element. In the following example, a before pseudo element is used to add a rectangle to an element with the class heart. Heart before content, background color yellow, border radius 25%, position absolute, height 50 pixels, width 70 pixels, top negative 50 pixels, left 5 pixels. For the before and after pseudo elements to function properly, they must have a defined content property. This property is usually used to add things like a photo or text to this selected element. When the before and after pseudo elements are used to make shapes, the content property is still required, but it's set to an empty string. In the above example, the element with the class of heart has a before pseudo element that produces a yellow rectangle with the height and width of 50 pixels and 70 pixels respectively. This rectangle has round corners due to its 25% border radius and is positioned absolutely at 5 pixels from the left and 50 pixels above the top of the element. So, we're going to transform the element on the screen, this thing, to a heart. In the heart after selector, change the background color to pink and the border radius to 50%. Next, target the element with the class heart, just heart, and fill in the transform property. Use the rotate function with negative 45 degrees. Finally, in the heart before selector, Set its content property to an empty string. Okay. Heart after. Change the background color to pink. Pink. Border radius to 50%. 50%. Target the element with the class heart. Oh, this up here. And fill in the transform property. We're going to use the rotate function. Rotate. Bananas. Rotate. I love that video. Well, specifically, I like the SFM animation of that video, because the source film is kind of simple, but I think was it Moonshine Animations? No, it was somebody else on YouTube. They made an SFM using Lancelot from Fate Grand Order and Artoria from Fate, well, the whole Fate series basically. And it's just that thing with making the bananas rotate, and it's funny. We're getting off track. Rotate negative 45 degrees, DEG. Oh, there we go. Finally, in the heart before selector, set its content property to an empty string. So just, yep. Oh, and there we are. There is a heart. All right, 75%. We're 3/4, not fifths. What is going on? 3/4 of the way there. Next challenge. Learn how the CSS keyframes and animation properties work. To animate an element, you need to know about the animation properties and the keyframes rule. The animation properties control how the animation should behave. The keyframes rule controls what happens during that animation. There are 8 animation properties in total. This challenge will keep it simple and cover the 2 most important ones first. Animation name sets the name of the animation, which is later used by keyframes, @keyframes, to tell CSS which rules go with which animations. Animation duration sets the length of time for the animation. Keyframes is how to specify exactly what happens within the animation over the duration. This is done by giving CSS properties for specific frames during the animation, with percentages ranging from 0 to 100%. Yeah, when I was studying graphic arts, we didn't go over any of this in HTML. Like, we did animation in like Adobe Suite programs. I didn't even know you could do animation in HTML. If you compare this to a movie, the CSS properties for 0% is how the element displays in the opening scene. Sorry, I'm getting the nervous leg shaking again. Sorry about that. Okay. If you compare this to a movie, the CSS properties for 0% is how the element displays in the opening scene. The CSS properties for 100% is how the element appears at the end, right before the credits roll. And CSS applies the magic to transition the element over the given duration to act out the scene. Here's an example to illustrate the usage of @keyframes in the animation properties. #anim, animation name colorful, animation duration 3 seconds. Keyframes, colorful, 0%, background color blue. Oh, okay, I see. It's not like a full animation. Okay, I kind of get it now. For the element with the anim ID, the code snippet above sets the animation name to colorful and sets the animation duration to 3 seconds. And the keyframes rule links to the animation properties with the name colorful. It sets the color to blue at the beginning of the animation, 0%, which will transition to yellow by the end of the animation, 100%. You aren't limited to only beginning and transitions. You can set properties for the element for any percentage between 0 and 100%. Create an animation for the element with the ID rect, I'm guessing like rectangle, by setting the animation name to rainbow and the animation duration to 4 seconds. Next, declare a keyframes rule and set the background color at the beginning animation 0 to blue, the middle animation 50% to green, and the end of the animation 100% to yellow. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm guessing this rect is going to be the anim thing. So, animation name rainbow, animation duration 4 seconds. Okay, and then this is going to be at keyframes rainbow. Nope. Okay. 0% background color blue, 50%, background color green, 100%. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Background color yellow. Okay, and I think that's it. Does it not repeat? I guess it doesn't repeat. Well, I guess it does. Alright, run the tests. Alright, very cool. Next challenge. Use CSS animation to change the hover state of a button. You can use CSS keyframes to change the color of a button in its hover state. Here's an example of changing the width of an image on hover. Style, image hover, animation name width, animation duration 500 milliseconds. At keyframes width 100%, width 40 pixels. Style, image, cool logo, blah blah blah. Note that ms stands for milliseconds, where 1000 milliseconds is equal to 1 second. Use CSS at keyframes to change the background color of the button element so it becomes blah 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 when a user hovers over it. The at keyframes rule should only have an entry for 100%. Okay. Huh. Oh, okay, I see. Kind of made this easy. So at keyframes, frames, background, color. No. %. Nope. 100%. Doop. Okay. It changes the width. How do I set it? Do I just do background, color, I guess we'll copy this, paste it there. I think that did it. Yep, that did it. Next challenge. Modify film mode of an animation. That's great, but it doesn't work right yet. Notice how the animation resets after 500 milliseconds has passed, causing the button to revert back to the original color. You want the button to stay highlighted. This can be done by setting the animation film mode property to forwards. The animation film mode specifies the style applied to an element when the animation has finished. You can set it like so. Animation film mode, forwards. Set the animation film mode property of button hover to forwards so the button stays highlighted when the user hovers over it. So we're only changing code below and above this line. So put it here. Animation fill mode forwards. Semicolon. Now when we hover over it, it stays the color. Run the tests. 81%. Next challenge. Create movement using CSS animation. When elements have a specified position, such as fixed or relative, the CSS offset properties right, left, top, and bottom can be used in animation rules to create movement. As shown in the example below, you can push the item downwards, then upwards by setting the top property of the 50% keyframe to 50 pixels, by having it set to 0 pixels for the first and last keyframe. 0% and 100% keyframes. Yep. Okay. And a horizontal motion for the div animation. Excuse me. Using the left offset property, add to the keyframes rule so rainbow starts at 0 pixels at 0%, moves to 25 pixels at 50%, and ends at negative 25 pixels at 100%. Don't replace the top property in the editor. The animation should have both vertical and horizontal motion. Okay. Left, 0 pixels, and do I just keep using left? Okay. ends at negative 25 pixels at 100%. I think that does it. Kind of wish it would keep doing it so we could see that it works. Run a twist, but yeah, it works. 83%. Next challenge. I'm going to take another sip. My throat's a little dry. Create visual direction by fading an element from left to right. For this challenge, you'll change the opacity of an animated element so it gradually fades as it reaches the right side of the screen. In the displayed animation, the round element with the gradient background moves to the right by the 50% mark of the animation per the @keyframes rule. Target the element with the ID of ball and add the opacity property set to 0.1 at 50% so the element fades as it moves to the right. Okay. Opacity 0.1. Cool. Alrighty. 85%. Next challenge. Animate elements continually using an infinite animation count. The previous challenges covered how to use some of the animation properties in the @keyframes rule. Another animation property is the animation iteration count, which allows you to control how many times you would like to loop through the animation. Here's an example. Animation iteration count 3. What are you gnawing on me for, cat? Can I help you? Do you need something from me? Anything? You're just going to stare at me? Alright, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Okay. In this case, the animation will stop after running... Yes? What is it, Lulu? Do you headbutton me? What do you need? What you need, Kit Kat? Pretty sure you've got food. Anything? Oh. She's just placing her paw on my hand. I mean on my arm. And then she's gnawing on me again. She's not buying, she's just like rubbing her teeth against my arm. Which is still slightly off-putting. In this case, the animation will stop after running 3 times, but it's possible to make the animation run continuously by setting that value to infinite. To keep the ball bouncing on the right on a continuous loop, change the animation iteration count property to infinite. That's pretty easy. Take this. Infinite. Yep. And now that ball will bounce forever. Run to tests. Next challenge. Make a CSS heartbeat using an infinite animation count. Here's one more continuous animation example with the animation iteration count property that uses the heart you designed in a previous challenge. The 1 second long heartbeat animation consists of 2 animated pieces. The heart elements, including the before and after pieces, are animated to change size using the transform property, and the background div is animated to change its color using the background property. Keep the heart beating by adding the animation iteration count property for both the back class and the heart class setting, for both the back class and the heart class, and setting the value to infinite. The heart before and heart after selectors do not need any animation properties. Okay, so we just come here, animation iteration count infinite semicolon. And we're gonna copy that because we're just gonna come back down here to heart and use it again. Run the tests. Alrighty, 88%. Next challenge. Animate elements at variable rates. There are a variety of ways to alter the animation rates of similarly animated elements. So far, this has been achieved by applying an animation iteration count property and setting keyframe rules. To illustrate, the animation on the right consists of two stars that each decrease in size and opacity at the 20% mark in the keyframes rule, which creates the twinkle animation. You can change the @keyframes rule from one of the elements so the stars twinkle at different rates. Alter the animation rate for the element with the class name of star1 by changing its @keyframes rule to 50%. So star1 has twinkle1. So all we need to do is come here, change this to 50%. Run the tests. Yep, that's all it was. 90%. Only 10% more to go. Submit and go to the next challenge. In the previous challenge, you changed the animation rates for two similarly animated elements by altering their @keyframe rules. You can achieve the same goal by manipulating the animation duration of multiple elements. In the animation running in the code editor, there are 3 stars in the sky that twinkle at the same rate on a continuous loop. To make them twinkle at different rates, you can set the animation duration property to different values for each element. Yeah. Set the animation duration of the elements with the classes star1, star2, and star3 to 1 second, 0.9 seconds, and 1.1 seconds respectively. So star1 is at 1 second already. Star2 is going to be 0.9 seconds. And star3 will be 1.1 seconds. 0.1. Alright. 92% complete. Next challenge. Change animation timing with keywords. In CSS animations, the animation timing function property controls how quickly an animated element changes over the duration of the animation. The animation is a car moving from point A to point B in a given time, your animation duration. The animation timing function says how the car accelerates and decelerates over the course of the drive. There are a number of... Yeah, sorry about the yawn, everybody. There are a number of predefined keywords available for popular options. For example, the default value is ease, which starts slow, speeds up in the middle, and then slows down again at the end. Other options include ease out, which is quick in the beginning then slows down, ease in, which is slow in the beginning then speeds up at the end, or linear, which applies a constant animation speed throughout. For the elements with ID of ball1 and ball2, and an animation timing function property to each, and set ball1 to linear and ball2 to ease out. Notice the difference between how the elements move during the animation but end together since they share the same animation duration of 2 seconds. So ball1. Yes, Lulu, can I help you? Do you want to help me code? No? You just want to stare at me? Or, okay, we're doing this now. How's that? Better? Okie dokie. Animation. Oh, we're probably gonna end after this session. Because I am more tired than I thought I'd be. Animation timing function. Ball 1 should be linear. Yep, that changed it already. Animation timing function will be set to ease out. Yep. Run the tests. 94%. Next challenge. Learn how... Oh man, I've heard about this before. Learn how Bezier curves work. The last challenge introduced the animation timing function property and a few keywords that change the speed of an animation over its duration. CSS offers an option other than keywords that provide even finer control over how the animation plays out through the use of Bezier curves. In CSS animation, Bezier curves. Is it Bezier or is it Bezier? I don't remember. If somebody in the chat wants to correct me, they're welcome to it. Because I do not remember. Bezier curves are used with the cubic Bezier function. What are you doing in front of my keyboard, cat? You just see me type a whole bunch of stuff. What is going through your head, Missy? Huh? What's going through your head, Missy? You're interrupting my stream. We are learning how to code. You are not being helpful. But then again, you are a cat, so being helpful is not your concern. Come on. You gotta go. Good girl. Sorry about that. Do you want me to set up my computer bag so you can sit on my computer bag like you want to? Will that make it better? Here, nope. All right, fine. Run away. She's gonna stare at me at a chair from a chair across the table and look at me disapprovingly. But what else is new? Okay, back to what we were doing. The shape of the curve represents how the animation plays out. The curve lives on a 1x1 coordinate system. The x-axis of this coordinate system is the duration of the animation. Think of it as a time scale. And the y-axis is the change in the animation. The cubic Bezier function consists of 4 main points that sit on this 1x1 grid. P0, P1, P2, and P3. P0 and P3 are set for you. They are the beginning and end points, which are always located respectively at an origin, 0, 0, and 1, 1. You set the x and y values for the other 2 points, and where you place them in the grid dictates the shape of the curve for the animation to follow. This is done in CSS by declaring the x and y values of the P1 and P2 anchor points in the form x1, y1, x2, y2. Putting it all together, here's an example of a Bezier curve in CSS code. Animation timing function, cubic Bezier, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.75. In the example above, the x and y values are equivalent for each point. x1 is 0.25, y1 and x2 0.75, y2, which, if you remember from geometry class, results in a line that extends from the origin to 0.11. This animation is a linear change of an element during the length of an animation, and it is the same as using the linear keyword. In other words, it changes at a constant speed. For the element with the ID of ball1, change the value of the animation timing function property from linear to its equivalent cubic Bezier function value. Use the point values given in the example above. Okay, ID of ball1, animation timing function shall no longer be linear. We are setting it to, well, let's just copy and paste this right here. Copy, paste. And it's the same. Ball 2 should not change, and it has not. Run the tests. Alright, next challenge. Use a Bezier curve to move a graphic. A previous challenge discussed the ease out keyword that describes an animation change that speeds up first and then slows down at the end of the animation. On the right, the difference between the ease out keyword for the blue element and linear keyword for the red element is demonstrated. Similar animation progressions to the ease out keyword can be achieved by using a custom cubic Bezier curve function. One more sip. Or was I? In general, changing the P1 and P2 anchor points drives the creation of different Bezier curves, which controls how the animation progresses through time. Here's an example of a Bezier curve using values to mimic the ease out style. Animation timing function, cubic Bezier 000.58, 1. Remember that all cubic Bezier functions start with P0 at 0, 0, and end with P3 at 1, 1. In this example, the curve moves faster through the y-axis, starts at 0, goes to P1 y value of 0, and it goes to P2 value of 1. Then it moves through the x-axis, 0 to start, then 0 for P1, up to 0.58 for P2. As a result, the change in the animated element progresses faster than the time of the animation for that segment. Towards the end of the curve, the relationship between the change in x and y values reverses. The y value moves from 1 to 1, no change, and the x value moves from 0.58 to 1, making the animation changes progress slower compared to the animation duration. To see the effect on this Bezier curve in action, change the animation timing function of the element with the ID of red to a cubic Bezier function with x1, y1, x2, y2 values set respectively to 0, 0, 0.58, 1. This will make both elements progress through the animation similarly. Okay, I see. So basically we're just taking this, replacing it in the red animation timing function. And now we see that they're basically the same. Run the tests. 98%. Next challenge. Make motion more natural using a Bezier curve. This challenge animates an element to replicate the movement of a ball being juggled. Prior challenges covered the linear and ease out cubic Bezier curves. However, neither depicts the juggling movement accurately. You need to customize a Bezier curve for this. The animation timing function automatically loops at every keyframe when the animation iteration count is set to infinite. Since there is a keyframe rule set in the middle of the animation duration at 50%, it results in two identical animation progressions at the upward and downward movement of the ball. The following cubic Bezier curve simulates a juggling movement. Cubic Bezier 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 1.6. Notice that the value of y2 is larger than 1. Although the cubic Bezier curve is mapped on a 1 by 1 coordinate system, and it can only accept x values from 0 to 1, the y value can be set to numbers larger than 1. This results in a bouncing movement that is ideal for simulating the juggling ball. Change the value of the animation timing function of the element with the ID of green to a cubic Bezier function with the x1, y1, x2, y2 values set respectively to 0.311, 0.441, 0.444, 1.649. So it's already in a Bezier in the Bezier cube. So I am much more tired than I thought I was, which is why this is probably going to be it for tonight. 0.441. 0.444 and 1.649. Alrighty. I think that's it. Alrighty. That's it for applied visual design. Alright, ask me later. Now let's see where we are. We finished HTML, finished CSS, we just finished applied visual design. And now, or I should say next time, yeah, 52 was pretty big. I mean, we covered more last time, but I think I had more stamina last time than I did this time. Although we didn't get as hung up on certain things, but that's partially because I've studied this before, so there wasn't as much for me to have to digest. I don't know. I think we're just going to tackle applied accessibility like next time. Yeah, because I think my throat's done for tonight, and I want to be able to stream tomorrow and later on this week, so I don't want to tear up my throat too much. So I think next time, which I haven't scheduled out the next week, but the next time we learn to code, we're going to be tackling applied accessibility. And by the looks of things, we'll probably be able to tackle more sections than just one. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching and learning along with me as we go through freecodecamp.org. You can always follow my channel if you want to see more. I know tomorrow we're playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We're trying to get that game done so we can go on to Dark Souls, which I have played multiple times but never actually gotten through it all the way. And I think we're probably going to do a strength build for that, because I've always kind of done... I did this quasi-strength build once, never finished the game because I lost the stats that I needed for it. So I just started over again with a different build. Because I usually use dex weapons mostly for the most part. But I don't know. We'll see when it happens. We gotta beat Star Wars Jedi first before we even think about that. But yeah, you can follow my Twitch channel here. You can also follow me on Twitter. All the links are on the Twitter page, or if in the chat, you can use the commands to figure out what my links are. I post VODs on YouTube the day after broadcast. And yeah. Oh, we also have a Discord. I forgot to mention, we have a brand new Discord that I just made. You can join that too. I'm really hoping to get some people together so we can do some community games or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And yeah, I think we're going to transition to just chatting. And we're going to figure out who we're going to raid tonight. If anybody in chat has any suggestions, I'm very open to them. But let's see who's on right now that I follow. Okay. There's nobody else I follow who's coding. But I think we're going to go raid somebody who I'm probably going to be watching after stream. We're going to raid Silvervale, who's playing Sea of Thieves with Mira Pink. Is it Mira Pink? I'm pretty sure it's Mira Pink. Yes, probably. Alrighty. So, yes, that's what we're going to do, unless anybody in chat has any better suggestions. Let me go to... Actually, I can do it here, can't I? Slash... Nope. Slash raid Silvervale. Right? Yes. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow, most likely. Yes. So have a good night, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Have a good night.
Goodbye, pretty lighthouse. Gam,
quite
that's
the
a rock.
circuit out there.
Gam, Gam. Are you okay?
There was a rock. I was going the wrong way. I learned I was going the wrong way.
Can we sell out to these little island things? Is there like secret stuff on them or probably not? What's in that?
I'm supposed to go to this big ass
Can
boat,
we?
right?
Yeah, but what about all these little doodads? Whoa. Whoa. look at
Oh my
the
God,
souls. Whoa. Oh, that's cool. Whoa. Good job, Gam. They'll never see us coming, Gam.
Hello! We've come to stow away on your ship.
Look at the cool front of the boat. Oh. I think do you have to hook the rowboat onto the back of the boat?
Yeah, you got, yeah.
We're doing the scenic route.
Oh,
my
okay.
gosh.
Ah.